So when I sit down to do a video, I'm often thinking, I wonder if there's something I can cover that I haven't covered before. But of course, that's quite difficult because I've actually produced over 1,000 videos now, believe it or not. And that covers everything from quite a broad level down to some of the detail. However, when I sat down and had a look at the opportunities that were in front of me this week, I suddenly realised that there was one opportunity on football that I haven't previously covered. So if you want to learn what that is, just watch the rest of this video. I've been successfully betting and trading for over 2 decades. If you want more videos like this and you want me to describe more of what I do, then give us a like. If you want to talk to like-minded people, visit the BetAngel forum where you can do exactly that, but also visit our website where you can download a free trial of BetAngel. So fundamentally speaking, this video is about predicting a draw. And you'll sort of think, well, I'm sure I've seen videos from you doing this before, and yes, you would have done. But they're more geared towards predicting what price the draw should be and which matches are more likely to draw and stuff like that. Whereas this is looking at a very unique and specific circumstance for the draw, but it's geared around trying to teach you where to look for those opportunities and when they will occur, and also what those opportunities look like. In order to do that, we need to actually bring up a graph. And what this graph is actually representing is the chance or the distribution, the frequency of the odds of a draw. Not sure I've explained that particularly well, but basically what I've done is I've taken all the matches this season, looked at all of the draw prices and said which one occurs the most frequently. And you can see from the graph that what that actually is are odds of 4. So on average, it's sort of saying the most likely price that the draw will go off at is odds of 4. In other words, the draw has about a 25% chance of occurring. But you can actually see from the graph that it has what we call in statistical terms a fat's tail. And that means that, one side of the graph is not the same as the other, and it extends out for quite a bit. And that is because if you get a strong home team playing a weaker away team, then the chance of the draw declines. And therefore, you see a lot of those matches in varying states where the home team is very strong and the away team is very weak, and therefore the chance of a draw is quite small, effectively. But one thing you don't see on the graph is the same on the other side. In other words, you don't see the draw going off at odds of 2 or 1.5 or whatever from there. And that is simply because of the way that a draw occurs within a football match. Means that it's very unlikely that you will get a match where the draw is the favourite. It just doesn't happen because either the home team's the favourite, the away team's the favourite, but the draw is never the favourite. And that's why you see the skewness on this particular graph. It peaks at 4, it declines rapidly on the other side. So what it's saying is that the average draw, or the most frequent occurrences, are odds of 4. There's perhaps a 30% chance of a draw, which would be odds of 3.3. But you're not really going to see a 40% or a 50% chance of a draw. That's just not going to happen. But that brings us on to sort of the crux of what we're talking about here, because in fact, those things do actually happen. And if we explore why and how, that gives you a lot of information as to how to spot and exploit these things going forward. So I've been betting and trading for so long that when we look at sports events like football, I can pretty much guess where the odds are likely to be at any one point or another. You could sort of say to me during the middle of the football season, this team playing that team, this team's at home, what are the odds going to be? And I can give you the match odds pretty easily. I'm going to be pretty close to where the actual odds are. And that's not like some genius level of ability. It's just that because of the variability in football, what you tend to find is matches tend to get sort of priced in a similar way, depending upon the characteristics of what you're looking at. So it's very easy to understand and know what sort of odds are likely to appear. Now, I've just told you that the price on a draw will be about 4. If the teams are very closely matched, then maybe the price on the draw would come down to like 3.25 or something like that, but it would be incredibly rare to see it below 3. But if you've got a strong home team, then you would probably see the price on the draw pushed out to sort of 6s or something like that. But you can also price the home team relatively easy as well, because like if the two teams are relatively equal, but you have home advantage for one of the teams, then you'd expect to see them go off around sort of 220, 230 or thereabouts. And you know that the draw would be about 4, so you can fill in the gap and work out what the price on the away team is. That's sort of how I do it. But fundamentally speaking, when you look at a football match, you can sort of do that. And there's something that I do every day on pretty much every market, based upon that sort of knowledge. So at the beginning of every day, or in the case of football, at the beginning of the week, what I'll do is I'll bring all of those markets into BetAngel. I'll have a look at them, and I'll just look for anything that seems a little bit unusual. Now, of course, you can go on the Betfair website and do a similar thing, but the advantage you have with pulling data into BetAngel is you can manipulate it, you can store, extract data, and it can highlight opportunities for you automatically. But yeah, I'll have a look at all of the markets, and typically what I'm looking for are things that look unusual. So on racing markets, is there a market halfway down the card that's got a lot of volume? Because that indicates that there's probably something going on within that market. And if I'm looking at football, I've got in my mind all of the idea about the sort of odds that I would expect to see. And if I see a discrepancy there, then that's something that I would sort of home into. So yeah, I'll always bring up those markets, have a look across all of the markets, and that's my first sort of stab at trying to see if there's an opportunity somewhere across the racing card, across the football, or whatever sport or event that I'm particularly looking at. So while going through this process a few years ago, I noticed there was a pattern occurring that I could always rely upon towards the end of the football season. And that was every time I would bring up all of the Italian leagues at the end of the football season with just one game left, you would see matches that had odds that just didn't make any sense whatsoever. They just looked completely out of place. And if I show you an image from one of those where I've captured all of the fixtures on that particular day, you can see it's relatively easy for you to spot as well, because if we look down this particular list, one of the things that sticks out like a sore thumb is that you've got the draw at very, very short odds. We know where the draw should be. We know that the average draw is priced at about 4, and perhaps if the match is a bit more competitive, it comes down to sort of 3.25 or something. But we also know that it should be much bigger than that on certain occasions as well. But we know that one thing is that it shouldn't be odds on or close to odds on, or certainly not the most favoured outcome within a football match. So when you look at those Italian football matches on the last day of the season, you would see these really weird pricing. Now, I'm not saying that Italian football is dodgy or anything, but
more than 50 people have been arrested throughout Italy and more than 70 placed under investigation as part of a widespread Italian football match fixing inquiry led by anti-mafia prosecutors in the southern town of Catanzaro.
So it turned out that what was happening in a lot of these Italian football matches is that both teams were conspiring to produce a result that was acceptable to both of them. And as a consequence, you'd very often see draws going off at ridiculously short odds. It was absolutely crazy. Now, after all of the match fixing allegations and stuff went around in Italy, that obviously started to abate somewhat because there was less incentive for teams to do that. But this is something that occurs every year across a number of different leagues. And to give you a specific example this year, if we actually look at the Turkish division, we can look at, because you can approach this in two ways. You can actually look at the individual matches and you can say, well, that looks weird, what's going on there? Or you just look at the fixture list and you see what incentive teams have to do one thing or another. And that can sort of guide you in to where these opportunities are. But yeah, if we look at the Turkish league this season, at the top of the league, we have Galatasaray, and they need one more point in order to guarantee that they win the league. And if we look towards the bottom of the league, there's a team called Konyaspor. They need at least 1 point at the weekend in order for them to avoid relegation. And guess who those two, you couldn't make it up really, but Galatasaray are playing Konyaspor this weekend. So you have two teams that have an incentive just to draw the match. If one team won against the other, that could put, all sorts of problems, throw the cat amongst the pigeons and so on. But fundamentally speaking, both these teams will benefit from a draw. So what do you think the price on the draw in this football match is? Well, I can reveal to you, it is. So you can see here that, either by just looking down the list of matches that are around, you can spot opportunities, or if you do a little bit of research ahead of this, then you will actually be able to identify matches where this could occur. And it'll be interesting to see how this match plays out, because obviously you can't guarantee it, but based upon my previous experience, it wouldn't surprise me if this did actually end up as a draw. So when we look at this sort of thing occurring, obviously you'll want to exploit it one way or another. Whether there's value or not in the actual bet itself is difficult to assess. I have done some research and looked at it, but it's sort of a little bit mixed. I can't say to you for definite that something is going to happen at the weekend and that it will definitely end up in a draw, although you'd have to say that this looks quite likely. And when we break it down from a betting perspective, is there value in it? Don't know. I'm not confident enough to say there's a big enough margin of value to be able to do anything about it. But it does present an opportunity, because one of the things that I have done successfully for a number of years is when you look at bookmakers, sports books, and you go into shops, you tend to find that they're slightly behind the curve. So the price is moving around all over the place on Betfair, and it's very, very likely that they will be mispriced. So for a number of years, what I've been doing is trying to find the best prices I can, wherever I can, putting some money on there and laying it off on Betfair. It's a great opportunity for a bit of arbitrage, because Betfair will always be ahead of that particular market. And this is a common occurrence. But also from a Betfair trading perspective, what you'll find is that the price before the match starts is driven by emotion and opinion. And so it trades a bit like a horse race, really. You can jump in and out of the market many times and take advantage of that. When the match is underway, then obviously you get the time decay going on within the match itself, and then you can keep an eye on the score and so on. But you'll tend to find that the market behaves very differently from a conventional football match. And as a consequence, there's opportunities to exploit it there as well. But yeah, whichever way you look at it, there's quite a few opportunities. So it's an unusual thing that happens. It happens towards the end of the football season, and it's something that's there for you to exploit if you choose to do so.